Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Power Podcast All-Star live stream series. Of course, I'm your host, co-host, Brother Bedford, and I'm just excited right now. I mean, I am in the midst of two people that I admire so much. Every time I'm around them, I leave smarter. So I got my pad and my pen, and I'm just ready to take copious notes, and I hope you are too. Again, we have a few things that I need you to do before we get started tonight. First and foremost, I want you to go ahead and type in your name and tell us where you're from in the comment section. The second thing I need you to do is go ahead and love George Frazier's fan page. We need you to like it and love it. And therefore, when you follow the page, you'll get notifications of all of the podcasts that we have coming up. And then, of course, if you want to get more notifications about past podcasts as well as the future podcasts, all you have to do is go to www.newblackpower.com. And then also with that, you'll be notified of one of the ones that's coming up this Thursday. Mark this on your calendar. We have Dr. Michael V. Roberts coming up this Thursday. So we got Dr. Randal Pinkett tonight and Michael V. Roberts this Thursday. I mean, this week is full of information for you and your family. And speaking of your family, here's what I need you to do. Hit the share button. Invite family and friends right now. Tell them that we're live with Dr. George C. Frazier and Dr. Randal Pinkett right now. Not tomorrow, not an hour ago. We're live right now in living color. So we need you to do that. All right. So now before I turn it over to our host for this evening, I just want to say a couple words about Dr. Frazier. Obviously, many of us know, if you're on this fan page, that he has been the catalyst for the conversation around networking and building effective relationships for well over 30 years. And there's been a resurface of a classic video that he did at the Tavis Smiley State of the Black Union several years ago. And so we want you to, it's on this page. We want you to take a look at it. But then more importantly, the resurgence is happening amongst some young people who have never had that experience with George Frazier before. So we want you to share it with young people because they really love the presentation, the demonstration that he lays out for us. So we want you to share that. It's on this page and there's a resurgence. So invite the young people. They need to hear from Dr. George C. Frazier and Dr. Randal Pinkett tonight. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to my mentor, our host for this evening, Dr. George C. Frazier.
Brother Bedford, good seeing you, my brother.
Always
Here we are again.
George, again.
We have, whenever I see this brother, I have to genuflect. I just have to genuflect. I know I'm an elder, I know I'm 75 years old, but I know greatness when I'm in its presence, okay? And I am so fortunate to have influenced this young man many years ago with the book that I wrote. But most importantly, some way, somehow, I got this brother to chair our board of all things Frazier Net. And what an incredible job he has done. He's Dr. Randal Pinkett. You know of him in so many different ways. He's in a sense a public intellect and philosopher, and so much more. I mean, I downloaded his full resume, of which I cannot read his full resume because all the time would be gone, right? We would spend an hour just on his resume, but it is an awesome resume. My God, I don't know how a brother this young has done so much in his life when his best years are in front of him. Right, as the New England Journal of Medicine report that came out last year, that your best years start between 50 and 80. That's when you do your best work. But you listen to the work that he's done, right, between 0 and 40 something. Right, it's amazing. It would be a life's work for 3 people. So what I did is I just highlighted a few things. Right? These are just a few things, aside from the fact that he's a family man with 3 children. He is single at the moment. I know the sisters who text me after these shows always want to know if the brothers are available. So I'm just doing you a public service. Doesn't mean, unless you got it like that, and I'm gonna read some of his, bio. Don't call the brother. But if you got it like that, you might want to start with an email. Okay, just be cool. So let me just quickly review his bio. I could not submit all of this to memory, right? So I'm just going to do what we call a dramatic read here. Dr. Randal Pinkett has established himself as an entrepreneur, speaker, author, scholar, and community servant. Yes, he is. He is a race man. Make no mistake about it. He is the co-founder and chairman and CEO of BCT Partners, a multi-million dollar management technology and policy consulting firm based in Newark, New Jersey. BCT Partners works with corporations, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations in the areas of housing and community development, economic development, human services, government healthcare, and education. A partial list of BCT's clients include Johnson & Johnson, Ford Foundation, Pfizer, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Hewlett-Packard, the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and Microsoft. Prior to founding the BCT Partners, Dr. Pinkett obtained corporate experience as a member of the technical staff at General Electric, AT&T, Bell Labs, and Lucent Technologies. He is a serial entrepreneur. He also previously launched 4 socially responsible business ventures. So I'm going to jump through a lot of stuff here. And he is a sought after public speaker for corporate, youth, and community groups. Dr. Pinkett has been featured on nationally televised programs such as The Today Show, Live with Regis and Kelly, and CNN, as well as featured in Parade Magazine, The New York Times, Washington Post, and Boston Globe. He was the season 4 winner. Now, this is where you may know him. He was the season 4 winner and the first African-American winner of the reality television show The Apprentice with Donald Trump. He served as an executive with the Trump Entertainment Resorts in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He has a regular segment host for CEO Exchange on PBS. It goes on and on. He was a fellow of the Rockefeller Foundation, the National Science Foundation, a graduate fellow, Lucent Technologies Corporate Research Fellowship Program, and there's a whole list of those. All right. He was elected as one of the top 20 scholars by USA Today. Dr. Pinkett holds 5 academic degrees, including the following: a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Rutgers in New Jersey. He completed Rutgers with a 3.9 GPA while serving as president of MEET, M-E-E-T, the Rutgers chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers. And at the same time, I think he's a polymath. He was captain of Rutgers University's varsity men's track and field team, competing as a high jumper and a long jumper. He has a Master's of Science in Computer Science from Oxford University in England as a Rhodes Scholar. He has a Master's of Science in Electrical Engineering from the MIT School of Engineering. He has a Master's of Business Administration, an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management, and as a participant in the MIT Leaders of Global Operations program. And then finally, he has a Doctorate of Philosophy, a PhD from MIT's Media Laboratory. And most notably, Dr. Pinkett made history as the first African-American ever to receive a Rhodes Scholar at Rutgers University. Now, I'm not going to read anymore because I'm intimidated. I might even be a bit jealous. I don't know. But this is one bad brother. He really is. I love him. Not only that, I don't know what his EQ score is. Like you have an IQ score, and then you have an emotional intelligence score that you can take an exam for. I know Barack Obama took that exam and scored 99. I think that Dr. Pinkett is probably in that range along with the big brain, but his interpersonal skills, his personality, his ability to work with and through other people, to love on people, is spectacular. I'm out of breath. I mean, I just love this brother. And look at him, look at him, I mean, look at him. Now he's at home. Now, how many people at home look this good? Now he's at home. He's just like all of us. He's at home. He's sitting in his house somewhere. He's probably alone. I don't know if the kids are around, but you look great, man. I don't know who makes you up. I don't know who designs your suits, who makes your suits, who does your collar and tie hookups, but you are fabulous, 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 fabulous. All right. So that's enough pining over you. All right. I mean, yes, you're all that in a bag of chips. We're going to have an interesting discussion tonight. And the topic, and there's no one better qualified to talk about this topic, is the 3 essential mindsets to compete in the 21st century. The 3 essential mindsets to compete in the 21st century. I want to begin the conversation before we get into that very rich subject. And just to ask Dr. Pinkett, A, his thoughts on COVID-19. What has he learned? What do you think we've learned as a people? And maybe what are we missing? Is there something, Dr. Pink, that you detected we might be missing? But most importantly, what has been your takeaways thus far from COVID-19?
So where do I begin without taking up the rest of our time responding to Brother Bedford and the good Dr. Frazier? Brother Bedford, always good to see you, my brother. Thank you for partnering with Dr. Frazier to bring this Power podcast series. You two must feel like you're a rock group on tour. I mean, it's like twice a week. It's like different cities, different days, different places. What's tonight's topic?
Right.
So
thanks, Brother Rand. Thank you.
No, blessings, brother. And Dr. George, our mentor, our role model, our icon, who inspired me and my business partners through success, runs in our race. I could go on and on. I'm not going to do it, but I could. Let's just be clear about that. But I love you both, and it's a real pleasure to be here. I do want to honor the moment that we're in. To your opening comment, Dr. Frazier, on COVID-19, and just say to all those watching and listening that have been affected, and we've all been affected in small, medium, and large ways, who've lost loved ones, who have loved ones in the hospital, have loved ones at the front lines, who are at the front lines, in retail, in hospitals, in cities and rural areas across our country and our globe. My heart goes out to everyone. It's affected me. It continues to hit closer and closer to home. I'm in New Jersey, a stone's throw from New York, the epicenter of the outbreak in the US. So my heart is heavy in this moment. What do I think we've learned? I think we've learned a lot of things, but perhaps highest among them is that the underlying disparities in our society are only being highlighted and exacerbated in what we see with COVID-19, whether it's those who can't work from home, those who are in crowded homes, those who don't have access to healthcare, those who have experienced healthcare inequities, and those who have underlying health conditions. We always talked about when the world gets a cold, Black people get the flu. Well, now we got the world getting a virus and Black people dying, and that's real. And to me, there's a lesson here that when we are in the midst of this and when we come out of this, we can't ignore what's underneath the hood of the car that's causing these inequities and disparities. Because if we don't address those root causes, which are only reflected by the virus, but reflect other inequities in economics and income and jobs and opportunity, then we've lost the underlying message of the tragedy that we're seeing disproportionately in our communities. And I think that might be what we're learning and what we might miss, George, to your question.
Yeah, it's, I've learned so much. And what we're being asked to do social distancing, wash your hands, the 3 or 4 things that's being required of us to mitigate this virus. I sort of use them as metaphors for the kinds of things that we should be doing when we're not being attacked by a virus, right? Um, Social distancing is essentially uh, um, modeling. I mean, we really need to socially distance ourselves from certain people in our lives. Now, this is very easy to say, very difficult to do. But I don't want to get. This is not about me. This is about you. But I really want to get into the meat of this subject. And I've heard you talk about it 4 or 5 times, but 4 or 5 different ways. This is you really know how to say the same thing eloquently but differently, and you do it in different ways in different audiences. And so we don't have enough time for you to unpack all that you know about this subject, all that you have experienced about this subject. And thank you, by the way, for sending me this sort of graph of your company over the years. Very interesting. Very interesting. And I'm sure that many of the lessons that you have learned have come from the hills and valleys of your own experiences and your own business. And maybe the low point in your business was 9/11, 2001. That was other than your start in 1995, but your business took a low turn. All kinds of things happen. And I can show everybody here. This is it right about here. And then you can see you had to dig yourself out of that hole. You had to stay the course, and then you began to climb and climb and climb and use the circumstances surrounding you at that time to take your business, your partners, our community to a whole nother level. All right. This is what entrepreneurship is. This is really how it looks. It's not like this, right? It's like this, right? And absolutely. And I'm in business now 34 years. My business is not the size of yours, but that's a relative thought. But to sustain a business, whatever size it is, and to grow it, however incrementally you grow it, takes a certain kind of savvy, a certain kind of grit, a certain kind of discipline, certain kinds of mindsets, right? And you've written on this. I forgot to mention your books. You've written how many books? 3?
3. Working on number 4 right now.
Right. Black Faces in White Places. Read that, brothers and sisters, because most of us are black faces in white places. I spent 20 years in the public and private sector, 13 in leadership with Procter & Gamble, then 3 as vice president of United Way, then 2 as an executive with Ford, and it was very different. Now, this was back in the 70s and 80s, right? So there are lessons to be learned from that as well. So help us. Why don't you begin wherever you want to begin? The floor is yours. You can do it in a monologue if you want to. You can do it in speech mode if you want to. You can do it however you want to, however you see fit. I will not interrupt you unless you want me to interrupt you, but I'm all ears. When you speak, I listen. As when I speak, and I love you for it. You've probably heard me speak 20 times, but when you're in the audience and I'm speaking, I'm actually looking at you. And what impresses me and flatters me really is that you're really listening, and you might be hearing this for the 5th time, but you're into it, and I love that. Thank you for that. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate the floor, George, but I hope that you, me, and Brother Bedford can have a dialogue about these topics. So I don't expect to speak very long, nor monologue in any way, shape, or form, but to keep this dialogue going amongst the 3 of us. But the topic, I will set the stage for the conversation, which is these 3 essential mindsets to compete in the 21st century. And I believe that these mindsets are essential in these times as well. And there's three trends I can speak to very quickly that set the stage for the mindsets: the economy, technology, and diversity. So what we see in the economy right now is this is going to be the worst recession or depression that anyone alive has seen. How long we're in remains to be seen, but that we're in and it's getting worse is not to be debated. And so with the economy being what it is, it gives rise to particular challenges of all of us having to do more and more with less and less. The second trend is technology, which we are now moving toward an even more technologically driven society than we were in before. Everything is going online. Everything is virtual. Everything is technology enabled. Physical distancing means virtual enabling. I mean, we're seeing it in all of our walks of life. And in that respect, technology helps to accelerate markets and opportunities and business at a speed that only gets faster and faster.
Right.
The third trend is diversity. And it's not only reflected in the disparities we're seeing, that is, not everyone is having an equal response or an equal experience with this virus. And that's not just who's being diagnosed and who is dying, but also who is still working, who's not working, who will be able to bring their companies back out of this depression, recession, and who will not, who had a banking relationship to get a PPP loan. The list goes on and on and on. You had Ron Busby on the other night, and I listened in. It was a great conversation. But if I take the economy, technology, and diversity, each of those maps to one of the mindsets. The economy says you got to do more with less, which means you need the mindset of an entrepreneur. Technology says you have to keep pace with rapidly evolving technology, which means you need the innovator's mindset. And then third, with diversity and increasing societal diversity, you have to embrace what I call the global citizen's mindset. And very simply, the entrepreneur's mindset is about how do you make something out of nothing? How do you make $1 out of 15 cents, stay legit and pay your rent? How do you bring passion and creativity and resilience and courage and confidence to what you do as entrepreneur? And it's not about creating a business. Let me be clear. And Brother Bedford knows entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way you think. So if you're listening to me thinking he's talking about starting a business, although I'm sure we have lots of entrepreneurs on the call, I'm not talking about starting a business, I'm talking about a mindset, a way that you think. And the entrepreneur is the mindset that seeks opportunity, sees opportunity, and then seizes opportunity. Mm-hmm. Technology, rapid pace. The innovator's mindset is the one that says, I have to have a healthy acceptance of failure if I want to innovate. In other words, the only way to innovate is to take risks. To take a risk means some will be successful, some will not. But if you have an unhealthy acceptance of failure, when you take the risk and things don't work, you throw in the towel. But if you embody the innovator's mindset, any innovator knows I have to go at it over and over and over and over again. And that I can't allow failure to define me, that if I fall down 7 times, I got to get up 8. I love the story of Formula 409. I won't even get into much detail, but just know that Formula 409 was from 409 attempts to get the formula right. That's right. Tweet that. Hashtag Formula 409 innovation.
Is that true?
That's true. Yes, that's true. That is true.
Right.
And so if you want to innovate, the faster you fail, the faster you get to the innovation.
Right.
Lastly, diversity in our society, the global citizen's mindset, and this is off of a Dr. George Fraser playbook. The global citizen's mindset says, I need to develop global relationships that are diverse. It's not local, it's not national, it's global, and it's not monolithic. It's got to be diverse. Diverse ethnically, diverse geographically, diverse in terms of their ways of thinking. I mean, just take your dimension, because that makes you a better person, but it also makes you more competitive. Because in an increasingly diverse society, if you can't work with and lead people who are not like you, then you will not be fit to lead. And so those are the three mindsets. The entrepreneur's mindset, make something out of nothing in response to a very difficult economy. The innovator's mindset, a healthy acceptance of failure in response to rapidly evolving technology, which is only getting more rapid as we speak. And the global citizen's mindset in response to increasing societal diversity that challenges us to move beyond our comfort zone, to connect with people who are not like us, don't think like us, don't come from where we come from, to move from our comfort zone into our growth zone. And if you can embody those three mindsets, especially in what we're seeing today,
Right.
you're a step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. When we birthed Fraser Nation at the conference last year, Citizens of Generational Wealth, where our citizens are committed to demonstrated excellence. I didn't say excellence, I said demonstrated excellence. Equity and investment, because we don't own a damn thing. And most importantly, to your point, an entrepreneurial mindset. I didn't say entrepreneurship. I said an entrepreneurial mindset. And we define that in our Constitution as one who takes risks, one who takes responsibility, and one who takes ownership of their own life. Now, this is easy to say, this is difficult to do. But once you begin to think like that, that could possibly morph into entrepreneurship, right?
That's right.
But we know that entrepreneurship is not right for everybody. There's some Negroes that should not be within 100 yards of owning a business. Well, you've heard me talk about this before. That we call them business people. See, what we're trying to do at the Power Networking Conference is put the business people out of business because they're messing it up for those of us that are trying to do business. But I guess, you start where you are with what you have, as Booker T taught us. But the whole entrepreneurial mindset, where did you get that from? Were your parents entrepreneurs?
It's a great question, George.
Because you're a serial entrepreneur, you're addicted to it.
I am. I've never had a job.
Where did that well up from? What was the trigger point on that?
So let me preface the answer by saying this to your question. The number one predictor of whether you will become an entrepreneur is not your ethnicity, not your age, not your education, not your income, not even your race. It is whether your parents owned a business.
That's right.
Then you have the highest likelihood of also owning a business. But it begs the question, why? And my response to that is, I think the reason is because when you have a parent who owns a business, it demystifies owning a business. And you just say to yourself, that's what mom and dad do. They run their own business. They figure out how to make something out of nothing, how to make money, how to generate profit from revenue. It's just second nature to me because I see it. I grew up with it. And so I didn't grow up with it. My mother and father were not entrepreneurs. But I had the closest thing to having a parent who owned a business. I had a childhood friend named Wayne Abbott, who was from my neighborhood, went to the same schools, pure coincidence, went to the same college, Rutgers University. My sophomore year, Wayne's senior year, Wayne started a business selling t-shirts. And to make a long story short, I said, if this guy who I grew up with, who looks like me, came from my neighborhood, can start a business, then why can't I? And I've been doing things entrepreneurial my whole life. I sold candy, I sold lemonade. I tried to sell my toys to other kids, but I never imagined that I could be a business owner because, as we both know, Brother Bedford, Dr. George, sometimes to be something, you've got to see something.
That's right.
And Wayne, seeing him is what made me believe I could take the natural proclivity for entrepreneurship to pursue entrepreneurship. It was Wayne Abbott who did it. And Wayne and I are still dear friends. He's a friend of my family. And I give him all the credit. And my business partners were also inspired. The four of us were all inspired by Wayne. And that's how we all got into business.
Wow. Yeah, I can relate to that because my father was an entrepreneur. This is a real simplistic version of it. He was a New York City cab driver. He was from the West Indies, but he was a New York City cab driver. But where he was different is he owned his own medallion.
Mm.
Okay. And he had interpersonal skills that allowed him to make an extraordinarily large amount of tips, because he really was engaging people. He was really, in a sense, selling people on who he was, right? And so, and then he got me a job in the grocery store, really working for tips, which was somewhat entrepreneurial, really sort of packing grocery bags, and people would tip us because we would help them take them to the cars and that kind of thing. So it was a very important orientation. What do we say in 100 Black Men? We will be what we see.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it in your own way, and that's an incredible thought, and that's why modeling is so important, and that's why you are so important. What you do, how you do it, the way you comport yourself, the businesses that you have evolved into, the strategic partnerships, which are joint ventures that you've engaged in. These are all models for us, right? My first great business model was Earl Graves. I wrote about him. He just passed away, as you well know. Unpack this thing. You talked about, you said the economy, technology, and diversity. So the economy is going to drive us where if we don't respond to it productively, effectively, and if we don't seek the knowledge necessary to thrive, not just survive in this economy. It was Socrates who said, the only good is knowledge and the only evil is ignorance, right? What are the things you think we need to be doing as a people to fully leverage our greatness, our potential in this economy? I mean, let's just be honest. I posted this on Facebook. It's been 500 years and we're still at the bottom of every single economic statistic in the world after 500 years. There's something we've missed. So even with the country as rich as Africa, the richest in natural resources, we're still the poorest people in that country per capita, right? What is that? What are we missing about this economic thing?
Well, it's interesting, George, your question leads back to one of your comments. You'll recall that Earl Graves wrote the book, How to Succeed in Business Without Being White. And the subtitle was Straight Talk on Making It in America. Another one of, I consider to be another iconic book like Success Runs in a Race. And he ranked in the book the top 10 challenges facing Black America. His first challenge was racism. That was what he ranked number one. But his second challenge in the book, which gets to your question, was leveraging our might. And those are his words, not mine, leveraging our might. And that also is very George Fraser-esque, who talks about connecting dots. I believe that the greatest missed opportunity for Black people is Black people.
Duh.
Brother Bedford knows what I'm talking about. Once again, we have such unrivaled power, and that's economic power, it's cultural power, it's intellectual power. I mean, just take your pick, run the table on it. And if I parlay that into a business conversation, the economy, I know the greatest frustration I've experienced in 27 years in business has been failed attempts to partner with other Black business owners.
No, unpack that. No, you don't have to get into specific.
I can get into specifics, George. I got no problem. I'm grown. I got nothing to hide.
That's very, very interesting, because that's deep and there's a lot to that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Speak to it.
Well, I tell it very simply. I see a script. My psychology majors are out there saying, I see a script play out. in certain deals that I've pursued. And here's how the script goes. The opportunity arises, a contract, a request for proposal. We gather together to have a discussion about it. Discussion goes well. Now we get to the critical question: who gets what part of the deal? And it goes like this, George. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. It starts to break down, and I have to pause everyone and say, you realize that if we can't figure this out, 100% of nothing is nothing. So we can bicker and bet and fight all we want, but as all these big companies are only getting bigger, there was a day when Continental competed against, I think it was United, they're together. Right. US Air and American Airlines, they're together. Pfizer and Wyeth, they're together. The UPN and the WB, they're together. Right. Kinko's and FedEx, they're together. I mean, the list goes on. Nike and Converse are the same company. Most people don't even know that. But the list just goes on and on. So while big is getting bigger, and we're seeing this play out in the economy, the haves are the huge, large, supersized haves. The have-nots are the small, struggling, micro enterprise have-nots. If we can't figure out how to make my 5-person taxi cab company combine with your 10-person taxi cab company, then we're never going to be able to compete in this marketplace.
That's right.
So what's the antidote? The antidote is humility, keeping our eyes on the prize, seeing that we can make the pie bigger, and we're not fighting to that more the pie for me is less of the pie for you.
Right.
So the biggest untapped opportunity for us is us. And if we put the egos down, and if we humble ourselves and keep our eyes on the prize, we can do anything.
That's right. That's right. I was looking at the statistics from the U.S. Census Bureau, the last 5-year reporting period about Black business development. 2.6 million Black businesses developed over the last 5-year reporting period, about a 35% growth. So we're growing. Most of that growth, by the way, are Black women starting businesses. That's another statistic. Of that 2.6 million Black-owned businesses that exist in America today, only 111,000 of them employ anybody. Right? They employ anybody. 111,000. The average annual revenues for the 111,000 businesses, Black businesses that employ somebody, is about $1.2, $1.3 million a year. That's up 11%. That means that 2.59 million of our businesses are sole proprietorships. Okay, sole proprietorships. The average annual revenue of those sole proprietorships, $18,700 a year, which is below the poverty line. But most importantly, to your point, the annual growth of those sole proprietorships is down 7%, right? So they are out there trying to do it on their own, do not have the ability to surround themselves with strategic alliances, joint ventures, partnerships, pulling people together, working together, and therefore their business is dying. So you either grow or you die. Right? Everything that God has ever created is grown or dying, right? It's growing or dying. So unless we can move aside whatever it is that make us reluctant to grow with someone else, some of it, I think, now speak to this because you've tried this, is the lack of trust that we have in each other. I think it's the low race esteem that exists in our company. Now, we don't speak it that way. We don't say it that way. But we damn sure behave that way. Is it trust? Is it ego? Is it pride? When people are, you've been at the table trying to pull these joint ventures together, and some have failed. Fortunately, I think you're pretty close to getting one now, right? You get pretty close to getting one done. Right?
No, we've gotten quite a few done. We've done 3 joint ventures successfully. But
okay, great.
I've also had at least 4 or 5 failed merger attempts also. So I'm batting par right now.
Okay, that's good. So the common threads of the ones that fail were what? If you could say it was 1, 2, 3, and the common threads of the ones that succeeded were what?
Well, let me say this, George. I don't know if the issues of trust are any different for us than they are for other communities. I don't know. Because here's my theory. My theory is that whenever there's money in the mix, it makes it harder for people to compromise, to give up something to get something. And the two examples I often give are the recording industry and professional athletics.
Okay.
You know, in the recording industry, if you think back to the 60s, you had lots of groups. I mean, just think Motown. Most of the people you remember from Motown had a group. Ask the question, how many groups are there today? How many?
Right.
I mean, I've done my research on this.
Right.
The number of groups who hit the top 10 over the past, I'd say 5 or 6 years is almost zero. It's almost zero. Do your homework on that, folks. If you're watching, go ahead and Google it. Now, why is that? I think part of the problem is individualism as a societal trend. Forget about Black people. Societally, we're more focused on the individual. Like everybody wants a spotlight, and there's no more New Edition. And anyway, Bobby Brown messed it up. If you saw the biopic. But the other piece is look at the NBA. In the NBA today, if you want to have a successful franchise, somebody's going to have to sacrifice their salary to make room for other great players.
Right.
And some of the failures we've seen of teams who couldn't stay together or couldn't come together was because people said, and with all due respect, Carmelo Anthony is a great example. Part of the reason why Carmelo never won a title is because Carmelo wanted his money. And if you always want the money, you will never win with the team. So again, I don't know if that's particular to us or if it's particular to society, but the reason why I've seen my deals fall apart is those two things: egoism, individualism, when money was at the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you, I mean, deals have fallen apart because of that, but deals have come together when
Yes.
there was one. How did you reconcile that? How did you mitigate that to get something to come together and there are big dollars involved? What was the psychology of that?
Well, you know, it's an easy answer because on my screen is to my left and to my right, which is Brother Bedford and Dr. George C. Frazier. You find like-minded individuals. The reason why you're co-hosting this podcast and not hosting the podcast is because the two of you are like-minded individuals.
Right.
You have a shared vision that if we do this together, it's better than doing it apart. George, you had a business partner, Greg. I've got 3 business partners, Lawrence Hibbert, Dallas Grundy, Jeffrey Robinson. These are like-minded individuals who I have never had to worry about whether things were going to work because their mindset, getting back to where we started, is one that is receptive to working together. Doesn't feel threatened by bringing somebody else into their space. And the same principles that apply to a romantic relationship, like who you might date or get engaged to or married, of being vulnerable, of trusting, of giving trust to get trust, to bringing somebody into your space. The same fundamental rules apply to business.
Yeah. I have a little saying I wrote a long time ago. It's a perfect little saying based on what you just said, that relationships never die a natural death. They are always murdered by attitude, behavior, ego, or ignorance. Right? And another one is if you are not where you want to be in life, is because you have not put the right people in your life. So you said it differently. When you're looking for 1 + 1 making 11 and not just 2, it really is identifying the like-minded people. It's almost like finding a needle in a haystack in many respects, but the upside of a needle in a haystack is that the needle is in the haystack. If you look long enough, if you look hard enough, you're going to find it. And what did you say? You have a 50-50 track record on that, because and you are brilliant, because it's just not, it's easy to say, it's extraordinarily difficult to do, and you just have to keep going at it until you get it done, until you find the right thing.
And George, that gets back to the innovator's mindset of accepting failure. So you can't be once bitten, twice shy. you got to stay in the game. You got to keep at it. So while I've failed on these attempts 4 or 5 times, I've stopped keeping count. I've got 3 or 4 others that have been very successful. So you learn the lesson, you apply the lesson, you keep it moving.
That's right, right, Brother Bedford. I'm hogging this up. Do you something you want to ask Dr. Pinkett?
Well, you touched on quite a few things, George. I do want to ask one question because I know we probably have a few questions later. So I'll ask mine now because it was interesting. Dr. Pinkett, I had gone to a conference about a couple years ago, and like your book's title, I was the only black face in a white place. This is a business and marketing conference, but they were talking about the way that business and information was going. Then I had breakfast with Dr. Frazier recently, and he talked to me about a conversation that you and he had about the same topic. So my question is, where does data play in this across the board with these 3 different mindsets, these 3 different facets of business in the future that we need to be focusing on with the innovation, with the global diversity, as well as entrepreneurship? Where does data come? Because I think, as you mentioned before, if we're not thinking like that, we may miss the boat if we're not focusing on how to use data in these areas. So could you expound on that a little bit?
Oh, I love the question, Brother Bedford. This is a great conversation. So our mission at BCT Partners, my firm, is to provide insights about diverse people that lead to equity. Insights about diverse people that lead to equity. And the insights piece is powered by data. Understanding data, interpreting data, using data to predict, to prescribe, to analyze, et cetera. And I've been growing, and we've been growing more steeped in data as an asset. And it is only going to become a greater asset. And let's be clear, for those that may be unfamiliar with the role data plays in our lives, I mean, we're generating more data today than ever before. Yeah. Your phone's generating data. If you have a Fitbit, it's generating data. When you go buy most things, it's generating data. And oftentimes that data is being used by somebody to make money or to have greater insight to what they think, what they predict, what they desire for you to do, for them to make more money than they made from you before. So how we harness data, not only in an entrepreneurial context, to your point, Brother Bedford, for how it can drive decisions in our businesses, how it can drive insights about our customers, but there's also a societal component to that in terms of how do we also understand what are the issues that need to be addressed? How do we better understand the best strategies to address those issues? And tying back to where we started, like we just released a free big data tool at BCT called the COVID-19 Urgent Service Provider Support Tool, also called CUSP, COVID-19 Urgent Service Provider, CUSP. And it basically takes government data and compiles that and helps you to pinpoint what communities are in greatest need and what organizations are best equipped to address those needs in communities that are desperately in need of support right now. So we have to build our ability for the 4th mindset, which Brother Bedford just introduced, the data mindset. And the data mindset essentially says that in an era where data is being generated everywhere that we go and from everything that we do, I have to be able to understand how I can harness that data to make better decisions, to have better understanding, and for whatever my agenda is, be it for profit or for a purpose, that it can help to amplify and advance that agenda by harnessing, understanding the role of data.
Mm-hmm. And this applies even if you're selling T-shirts online. There's a way to collect data that can help you better serve the people who you sell T-shirts to by understanding what their needs are. Just very quickly, you already explained. That was a wonderful question, Brother Bedford. You've already talked about data. So just for the purposes of our audience, there's the category of big data, and then there's the category of rich data. Just give us some distinctions there.
Absolutely. Big data speaks to the, not surprisingly, the size of the data, and there's so much data, and big data is this era of analytics that is able to combine very large data sets and be able to see patterns within that data. You know, you think about going to the grocery store and you have your loyalty card and you swipe it. That database that they've generated of every customer who comes in and swipes is massive. But they can harness that big data to understand, well, which products are trending and which ones aren't. They say that certain retailers can predict if someone's pregnant before they might even know, based on their buying habits. Imagine that. What should be at the front aisle versus what should be on the shelf. I mean, all these decisions are driven by data. And so rich data really speaks to the quality, big data, the quantity, rich data, the quality. And we talked a lot about what's called hyper personalization. Mm-hmm. That is this idea that you can design a product or a service.
Yeah, Amazon's really into that. Amazon, oh my God.
Yeah.
Once you sign up for Amazon and you buy something, it's incredible how they keep tapping you with things. Well, you bought this, so you might want to buy that. But anyway, I interrupted, but go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right. That's exactly right. And they can get down to a very granular level of understanding what you need, when you need it, how you like it, the way you want it delivered. And we're actually applying this at BCT. We have a technique we call precision analytics, which is saying like precision medicine, where you can provide a drug that's tailored to your biology and DNA. That's where we're going, right? You swab, take your DNA, here's your pill. Precision analytics says I can analyze the data of government, of nonprofits, of service providers. And for the client they're trying to serve, I can tell them what's the precise mix of services, training, food, human services, social services that can maximize the likelihood that that person could achieve a desired outcome, that they'll get a job, that if they're an ex-offender, that they won't recidivate. If they're looking to support their families, they can earn a living wage. So we can precisely identify what's the right mix for someone to achieve a certain goal by getting down to rich data and big data very, very granularly.
Yeah. If you were to recommend, I spoke at FAMU a couple months before COVID stopped all traveling. And I advised the young brothers and sisters who were really, it was really sort of like the freshman class. I said, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to go to Google, and I want you to put into Google the 20 most useless degrees in America. And see if you're getting ready to pay thousands of dollars and work your ass off for one of these useless degrees, okay? But that requires some level of intellectual curiosity, that once you get that base of intellectual curiosity and you do the research, you do the work, you read the books, you then are able to do some critical thinking. And then you can apply that critical thinking to innovative survival skills. And we're very innovative and we have good survival skills. So if you were waving a magic wand and you are recommending to brothers and sisters who are looking outward towards an entrepreneurial life, are there any particular businesses or categories you would encourage them to take a hard look at and really consider it aspirationally as a business? In any business category, specificity? Where should we be looking? Where are the opportunities for us in the 21st century? I don't know if you remember that our town hall meeting last year, maybe it's the year before, I believe you you did moderate this town hall meeting. What businesses in the future can Black people engage in and dominate like we dominate music? But we only dominate it creatively. We don't own it. We invented jazz, but we don't own jazz. We invented hip hop, but we don't own it.
Yeah, well, let me offer up a recommendation for the listeners. And you've heard me recommend this book. There's a book I love called Blue Ocean Strategy. And the idea of a blue ocean strategy is that most people compete in what the book calls the red ocean. The red ocean is the bloody ocean, because strategy as a discipline came out of war. And in war, you battle against your adversary and you get bloody on the battlefield. But the idea of the red ocean strategy says I'm competing on things that are traditional, speed to market, price, quality, in an existing marketplace that exists today. The blue ocean strategy says, well, what if I created a new market that doesn't exist and there's no competition? There's nobody to compete with. And the best example I could give many is Cirque du Soleil. You think about Cirque du Soleil and ask the question, like, what is Cirque du Soleil? Is it the circus? Is it theater? Is it the movies? The answer is it's Cirque du Soleil. It has no competition. There is no other Cirque du Soleil. It's in an uncontested space where it doesn't have to compete on anything. And again, and here's the trick. Cirque du Soleil, and my numbers aren't exactly right here, so folks forgive me, but I think it took the Ringling Brothers about 100 years or so to get to about 800 million before they went out of business. It took Cirque du Soleil like 10, 15 years to get to $1 billion. Because not only are they in an uncontested space, they charge a premium for their show, which means they earn more revenue per person. So I could go on and on and on. So I want to challenge our listeners to answer the question with a question. What's the blue ocean that no one's thinking of? Don't think about what to compete on in an existing market. Create a new market. And I believe, to your question, George, that opportunities to do business in and with Africa is something we could dominate. That's an untapped opportunity. I believe healthcare, which was important before and is even now more important now. I believe the last study said that like 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every $4 in the economy is spent on healthcare. Right. You can't ignore that. And then, technology is what technology is. It's going to keep bleeding at the bleeding edge. 5-10 years ago, it was mobile apps. Right now it's big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Tomorrow it's blockchain, and the list goes on. So I don't think you can ever lose by looking at what's the latest, greatest technology that is going to revolutionize someone's industry that you can be at the precipice of before it becomes part of the mainstream.
Randal, and so this speaks to the innovative mindset, right? Being prepared to just continuously innovate, take chances, take risks, and keep learning and developing and growing.
That's exactly right, Brother Bedford. It is about a mindset that says, I'm constantly challenging myself to seek new opportunities, new innovations. But to do that, again, you can't be risk averse. You got to be willing to take a risk. No risk, no reward.
There you go. The way I say it, that's precise. You're either remarkable or you're invisible. Mm-hmm. There's no in between. Mm-hmm. Right? You're remarkable or you are invisible. So I like to tell young entrepreneurs, stop advertising and start innovating. Innovate, right? Mm-hmm. Innovate. Don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. Two different things, right? Right. Brother Bedford, do we have some questions? Because we always overtalk these things, and our patient audience always has lots of questions. We run out of time before we answer those questions. Anything burning out there that Dr. Pinkett should address?
Sure. Well, we do have a question. It came from Linda. Linda wants you to give at least, she said 2, but considering the time, can you just give 1 strategy for each mindset for entrepreneurs who are listening? What would be a strategy to approach the entrepreneur's mindset, to approach the innovator's mindset, and then a strategy on approaching the global citizen's mindset?
It's a great question, which brings us back to the topic. No, that's really good. So for the entrepreneur's mindset, the strategy is find and pursue your passion. No passion, let me break it down real quick. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't even consider going after a venture unless you have passion for it. Why would I do it? Like, why would I put in all the blood, sweat, and tears to go after something I don't have a passion for? Like, that's a fundamental principle of being an entrepreneur. The same is true whether you aren't an entrepreneur. Studies have found that Black executives who reach the C-suite compared to Black execs who plateau have fewer promotions than those who plateau, meaning that those who plateau have more promotions. It's paradoxical. It's counterintuitive. Why? And we talk about this in Black Faces in White Places. The answer is because the executives allowed passion to be the guiding principle for what opportunities to pursue in their careers. When it didn't tap into their passion, they said no, which meant fewer promotions, but more advancement. You follow? So that's for the entrepreneur's mindset. For the innovator's mindset, you have to simply do three things: take the risk, fail fast, and pivot faster. You get no extra credit for failing slow and not pivoting at all.
That's right.
And then third, I'm going quick here because you want me to go quick. And then third, on the global citizens mindset, very simple. And we do a lot of work around unconscious bias at BCT. And how do you kind of mitigate your blind spots? Very simple. Challenge yourself to interact with people who are not like you on a regular basis, which begs the question, who do you meet for lunch? In this case, who do you Zoom with? Who do you interact with in your inner circle? And are they different than you? The more you can challenge yourself to interact with difference, the more you'll embrace the global citizens mindset and be a better leader of people who are different than you.
Great. Any other questions? Any other questions from our audience? Let's give them a little bit of time.
Okay, well, while we're doing this, I'll check the question because we do have a few, and I'll probably just go in and try to pull out one or two more real quick. But Randal, could you give more information? One, your websites, your books, before we get into the questions. And also, you mentioned the free tool that you have for gathering data. Can you explain that a little bit more while I'm going to get a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm easy to find because my name is unique. It's Randal Pinkett. Who knows? There's no other Randal Pinkett out there. So if you just Google me, you'll find me. But I'm on Facebook, and I say that with humility, not because I'm that big and bad, but because my name is that unique. I'm on Facebook at Randal Pinkett, Twitter at Randal Pinkett, Instagram at Randal Pinkett, website randalpinkett.com, YouTube Randal Pinkett. I mean, LinkedIn Randal Pinkett. I'm all Randal Pinkett. The books. My first book was Campus CEO, The Student Entrepreneur's Guide to Launching a Multi-million-dollar Business. That's for the student entrepreneurs. Second book was No Money Down CEO, How to Start Your Dream Business with Little or No Cash. That's for the broke entrepreneurs, because I was a broke entrepreneur.
Right.
That's right. The third book, Black Faces in White Places, co-authored with my business partner, Dr. Jeffrey Robinson. Subtitled 10 Game-Changing Strategies to Achieve Success and Find Greatness. It's in hardcover and paperback. And then I'm working right now with Dr. Robinson on book number 4, Black Faces in High Places. The last book was How Do You Get to the Top? This next book is How Do You Stay at the Top? So stay tuned. It's coming to you soon.
When will that be out?
I would predict 2021, because George, you know as well as I do, the publishing cycle has not been accelerated by technology.
No.
So I think hopefully early 2021, if I had to predict.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. And your other books can be purchased on Amazon, or do they purchase them directly through you?
You can also go to Pyramid Books, the Black-owned bookseller. Pyramid Books also sells my books as well. In fact, I buy my books
online. Pyramid Books online.
Pyramid Books online. Yep, that's right. That's right. Yep. So when I buy my books wholesale, I buy them from Black-owned Pyramid.
Okay, great. That's recycling Black dollars. Brothers and sisters, Randal Pinkett will be at the Power Networking Conference. This is our flyer for. Now we've changed the date. Let me remind you of that. It's not in July. It will be October the 14th through the 17th, but see him right there? That's Randal Pinkett, and there he is right there. He's live right there. So he will be at the conference, and so you'll want to take advantage of that. You'll want to be with us in October. By October, you'll really be ready to get out of the house, okay? First of all, Black people miss each other anyway. Right. And so being embargoed away from each other for this amount of time, when they lift the gate up and when we can all get out, You'll want to be someplace where there's some incredible intellectual capital, some beautiful people, people of like mind, because only people who come to our conference, these are people of like mind. As you know, each of the podcasts we make an offer for only 5 people. We call it our lottery ticket for the podcast. It's a little thank you for joining us. Brother Bedford, before I get into that, did you have a question? Did you have something?
No, I think we're good, George, on the questions. A lot of people are really just sharing all of the resources, all of the books. That's what I see. A lot of links. They're actually quoting you on everything that you said. So they're just sharing a lot of quotes. They're engaging, and they're sharing all of the links of all of the resources that you mentioned.
Okay. And I know that there are always a lot of questions, but a lot of them are the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, basically, you've answered them.
Yeah.
So we have to sort of edit them as they come through so that we're not driving you crazy.
Real quick, George, real quick, because one person did just say they wanted to make sure that they were clear on the resource for the data.
Oh, right. You did ask that, Brother Bedford. Thanks for that reminder. So if you go to bctpartners.com, that's our company website. The tool you're looking for is called CUSP, the COVID-19 Urgent Service Provider Support Tool. You can even Google that. We did a press release about 2 weeks ago announcing the release of the tool, and it's at bctpartners.com. Again, the COVID-19 Urgent Service Provider Tool, which helps you identify which communities are most in need and which organizations are best equipped in those communities to address those needs so that government, philanthropy, and donors can drive resources to those organizations.
What's the name of the tool again? It's CUSP.
CUSP. Yep. CUSP. COVID-19 Urgent Service Provider Support Tool. CUSP.
Okay.
And they get that at bctpartners.com.
That's right. bctpartners.com.
Great.
Got it.
Great. We're going to make sure that that's below. Okay, George, it's all yours.
So rather than me getting into my little lottery ticket here that I'm going to provide, what I'd like to do out of respect is just ask you if there's any closing thoughts, any closing words that you have for us tonight, Dr. Pinkett. And so you'll in a sense, have the last word before I do a deal here. Okay. All right.
Well, I'll just say again, thank you, Brother Bedford. Thank you, Dr. Frazier. I love you both. Appreciate you both.
Love you too, brother.
No doubt about it. And you guys have the stamina of the ages twice a week for weeks.
So three times. Who's on Saturday, Brother Bedford? Who's on Saturday? I forgot.
Oh, yes. Wendy Muhammad is on Saturday.
Wendy Muhammad. I'm going to be on a radio program
from the ground up. Awesome. Can't wait.
I'll be on her radio program at 12 noon. This bad sister here, Wendy Muhammad. Oh my God. So we got a 1, 2, 3 punch this week. Wendy Muhammad.
You guys are gonna have to get T-shirts printed up that have all your podcast, hosting, like the T-shirts from the rock tours, R&B tours, more likely. But I appreciate you guys for what you're doing, and especially for the pivot that you've made in the midst of the pandemic. You know that people are quarantined. My message to everyone, notwithstanding those who are struggling to survive, but notwithstanding those of us who are fortunate enough to be on this podcast or listening to this podcast, we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to be a better person once this pandemic has been mitigated? Like, what are you doing to better yourself spiritually, physically, emotionally? And what are you doing in service of others? Recognizing that one of the underlying lessons that we learned, and we talked about this when we opened up this podcast, is that there are people who are disproportionately being affected that are only representative of underlying challenges that they've been facing before COVID-19 even came to the table. So make yourself a better person so that you can be a better blessing to somebody who needs you to be
Amen.
that blessing, and be that blessing now, but also, again, think about what can you do to improve yourself so that you can be an even greater blessing as the weeks and the days and the months and the years go by. So thanks again, brothers, for having me on this podcast. Everybody remember those 3 mindsets: the entrepreneur's mindset, the innovator's mindset, and the global citizen's mindset, and challenging yourself to move beyond your comfort zone at all times into your growth zone. So
Yeah.
again,
I
blessings.
want to
Thank you
do
for
a
having me.
shout out. I want to do a shout out to a man I love, who's been your pastor for many years, Reverend Dr. DeForest Soares. I'm sure he's watching. So I want to shout out to him.
Shout out to Pastor Soares, my pastor. That's right.
Soares. Love you, man. Just keep doing the incredible work that you're doing on debt free, or for, D free. D free. It means debt free. Also,
And
I want to
George, quick story, real quick story.
go ahead.
Pastor Soares gave us our first contract for BCT Partners, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "You do a great job. I will tell everybody. You do a bad job, I will tell everybody."
I love him. I love him. I love him. This is a picture that, tomorrow, I wasn't kidding. Tomorrow I'm going to be on this is Wendy here. She'll be on Saturday on our podcast, but I'll be on her radio program at noon tomorrow on 1450 News Talk. 95.5. You can probably get it over the internet, okay? But she's a bad sister. She wrote an incredible book, Mind of the Entrepreneur. She is one of our faculty members at the Power Networking Conference. So tune in tomorrow at 12 noon. And so let me just close out with our standard podcast offer. It's sort of a little lottery ticket. And the lottery ticket is very simple. We're going to give you an extraordinary offer so that you can join us in Houston, Texas, at the Hilton of America's for the Power Networking Conference, our 19th Power Networking Conference. And by the way, don't forget my birthday is Friday. You don't have to do anything other than genuflect when my name pops into your head. 75 on that day. All right. So that's what, 3/4 of a century. Okay. Yeah. So just one thought, and I'll feel it because I have it that way. I feel people's energy. So the conference is an adult registration at the Power Networking Conference is $1,500. So as I always say, if you met one person that could help change the trajectory of your life, would that be worth $1,500? Yes. You'll meet more than one people. We guarantee it. All right. One person, we guarantee it. You'll meet many people that will help change your life. It is a life-changing experience. The conference can't be explained. People always come back and complain to me, Dr. Fraser, when I went home and tried to explain the conference, I defaulted to, you just have to be there. You have to be there. Forbes magazine named the Power Networking Conference one of the top 5 conferences in America not to be missed. Okay, not one of the top 5 Black conferences, but one of the top 5 of all the conferences produced in this country. We're the only Black conference to have received that designation. We're very proud of that. So, full registration for an adult is $1,500. We ask that our adults bring a young person, 17 to 25. Right? We should be conferencing with our young people so they can sit at the feet of masters like Dr. Randal Pinkett and like Wendy Muhammad, and the list goes on. By the way, one of the special treats at the conference this year is that we will be giving our first International Marcus Garvey Award to Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of Marcus Garvey. I spent 2 weeks with him in Africa in November. He's 86 years old. He was a retired surgeon, but apples don't fall too far from the tree. He is unbelievable. So you will be able to sit at the feet of Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of the great Marcus Mosiah Garvey. That's part of the conference. A student registration for our conference is $800. So $800 for a student registration, $1,500 for an adult registration. These are standard rack rates. That's $2,300. For the first 5 people, only five. Last Saturday, we had 14. We only called 5. So if you didn't hear from me, it's because, as I instructed, I'm only going to call the first 5. And the price first is from $2,300 to $399. That's a $1,900 discount. It's for you, an adult, and one student. $399. It costs us more than that to feed you. Now, there's only one way you can get it. you have to email me personally. You can't go to the powernetworkingconference.com site. You can learn all about the conference on the site, but you cannot get that offer. So you simply get that offer by emailing me at gfraser@frasernet.com. That's gfraser, F-R-A-S as in Sam, E-R @frasernet.com. Say I'm in the subject line. In the body of the email, your full name and your cell number. If your cell number isn't in there, I'm going to go to the next person and call the next person below you. So the first 5 only. Your emails are timestamped, so I can tell by sequence who are the first 5. So that's the offer, $399 for an adult and a student, 2 people, an adult and a student. I will personally call you. You'll know it's me because I'll say, hi, this is Dr. Fraser. You've won the lottery. All right. Now, there might be a $500 million Powerball lottery in your town. It would not be that lottery. It will be for a registration for the Power Networking Conference. So that's our story tonight. What an incredible interview we had with an incredible human being, Dr. Randal Pinkett. He will join us at the Power Networking Conference. We'll see you on Thursday, where we will be talking to Dr. Michael V. Roberts, who is a faculty member of the Power Network Conference and has been for many years, and just another giant, ordinary giant, walking around Black America, just doing a little something, something. You'll like Dr. Roberts as well. So we'll see you Thursday, same time, same station. Again, Dr. Pinkett, love you, man.
You too.
Brother Bedford,
Sir.
Utabomb.com.
Thank you, George.
That's right. That's right.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.
See you Thursday. Thank you, Doc.